You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
A kiss, as defined by Dan Webster, is something pleasing, a caress, a gentle touch. But there's another kiss that isn't in Webster's.
Hey world, we're kids!
Some critics say they don't make music, they just make noise.
Yeah, Kiss sucks!
Kiss implies the extreme in the theatrics on stage, utilizing fire and smoke and bizarre costumes, and the ever-consistent, constant concealment of their true identities.
Speaking of which, Kiss is going to have its own comic book soon.
Take Kiss with you. It's fun. Show your friends and be the first. Now.
Oh my God, no time to turn!
Welcome once again to No Time to Turn, a Kiss nerd podcast.
Nerds. That's the nerd alert.
And I'm Russ, and joining me, as always, is Cap and Alex from the Something Good For You podcast.
Yo. What's going on?
And we've been tracking the history of Kiss, album by album, year by year, and we are not experts, nor do we claim to be. We just like to get off on this goofy shit. It's called Kiss.
Mm-hmm. And lately we've been going album by album, but now we actually are going year by year. We're going to focus on a whole year.
We're going to be spending the next several episodes on a single solitary year, and that is the magical year of 1978.
It's disco fever. Can you picture it right now?
Oh, yeah. Strutter 78.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a couple of things as we go through it. We're just going to kind of pick apart everything that's going on. We're going to see no less than really technically 5 albums released this one single year.
Which is insane.
And one's a double album, of course, but this one doesn't. I don't know if you say it counts because it's a greatest hits package.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're going to cap the year with a TV movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot to explore, and we're going to cover this probably over multiple episodes.
Oh, yeah.
And as we mentioned in the last episode, this is when the Kiss machine just goes into full force.
Yeah, this is the peak. I think. We talked about the peak being alive too, but that was the beginning of it. Is what I really meant by that. And really, for the next 2 years, we're going through Kiss Mania. This is everything that Kiss does to this very day is built around this period. It only exists because of this period.
Yeah.
Yep.
If this didn't happen, no one would care.
Right.
And speaking of Kiss Mania, coming up this Friday on the Something Good For You podcast, we actually go through a whole retrospective of the Kiss Cruise.
Yeah,
and
Alex
that was
just
Kiss
got
Mania.
back from the Kiss Cruise 10, and Alex was on board with another one of the
Performers.
One of the artists. Yeah, I hate that word. It's like it's rock and roll, man. It's not art. It's like you think art, and it's like you're not an artist, man. I don't know. It's art like a refrigerator magnet is art.
I love it.
You mean I can't put it on the front?
Well, but give a short encapsulation of what you were doing, why you were there, and what to look for on the Something Good For You podcast.
Yeah, like I said, we'll go through a whole thing. It's going to be episode 109. And I was on the boat because I've been guitar teching and recording video for Tuck Smith and the Restless Hearts. Indie rock guy. He'd punch me if he heard me call him that.
Independent rock artist.
Independent rock artist.
Not indie rock. Yeah, that puts a certain...
Yes.
Yeah.
No, he is very much, a fan of the glitz and glam of the 70s rock and roll.
Accent on the rock.
Yes. And
heavy, hard accent on the rock.
And so I've been rolling around with him doing just different tours and stuff. And his previous band called Biters was actually part of, I think, Kiss Cruise 8. And they got asked to come back and perform. And just now, since Biters are no longer a band, it rolled over to his new project. Right. So through that, I basically got a free ticket to go on the boat and hang out.
VIP.
Yeah, and VIP, all that good shit, and hung out with, and wound up meeting up with a couple of the members. We talk about that on the episode.
Don't give up too much of the. You got to go over on the Something Good For You network.
That's right,
and find the Something Good For You
podcast.
Number 109, correct?
Yes, 109.
And listen in, and you're basically getting a whole bonus No Time to Turn return episode.
Oh, absolutely, and it makes up for us not having one from a few weeks ago, which was my bad. we should have gotten that in a little sooner. But no, Kiss Cruise 10, definitely fun. Some great conversations had over on the Something Good For You podcast.
Absolutely.
Well, where to start here? 1978, and there's just so much stuff to pull apart.
So we've got albums, we've got merchandising.
Merchandising really kicks in here. And, Kiss became very famous for their merchandising.
Yeah,
and I think we've talked about in the previous episode how really they didn't make a lot of money off of this.
No. Especially through the Giltman marks. Sorry.
Glickman
marks.
Yep.
But also for like the last 3 records, I think ever since, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Destroyer had one. If not, I know for a fact Rock and Roll Over did. But starting with those records, they started including those mail-in order forms to buy Kiss merchandise.
Okay, well, we got a lot to pull apart here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, a lot of this comes out of the brain of Bill Aucoin, their manager. This guy is a visionary manager, if there ever was one. Maybe not the best business manager. In fact, that's the reason why they brought in Glickman Marks, was to do primarily to handle the books.
Yeah.
And that gave Bill more reign to be a creative force,
right?
Which is what he was so good at. But he seemed to be better at. He had a vision, and then he would marshal his troops accordingly. And let's just talk about a little bit about him, because I've been trying to find information on Bill Aucoin, and I had it in my head, and I don't know where this comes from, but you see the nickname Guy come up a lot.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from either.
It's short for Guillaume.
Okay.
In my understanding, and I don't know where I got this from, because it's not correct, or at least from what I've been able to gather. But I understood that for years, I thought either his first or last name was Guillaume. And he was from Montreal, Canada. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I thought that. In fact, he was born on December 29th, 1943 in Massachusetts.
All right.
And I thought Aucoin was a kind of a showbiz name that he had created for himself. AU being gold, coin.
Okay.
And I thought that was that his real name was some French name, and he adopted the Aucoin name. Well, apparently that's not accurate. Apparently Aucoin is his family name, and his name was William Martin Aucoin.
Okay.
So I don't know still where Guillaume comes from, or Guy. Everyone called him Guy. And I'm not sure what I've tried to find it. I've dug through my books. I went on the internet, and I'm like, where the fuck does that come from? And I couldn't find it.
Not even from any of the memoirs. That's not brought up at all.
But and this kind of jumping ahead, like when we get to the solo albums, we talk. Anyone that has the solo albums, they have the dedication on the back. Well, a lot of people aren't aware that Sean Delaney also recorded an album at that same time with many of the same musicians. He also produced 2 of the solo albums.
Yeah.
His dedication includes Guy. And of course, if you don't know that's Bill Aucoin, that was Bill. And of course, Bill Aucoin was his partner, boyfriend, life partner, whatever you want to call it. But he's from Canada. He ran a pirate radio station out of his basement until he got shut down by the FCC when he was a teenager, which is pretty fucking cool.
That is. I never knew that.
I didn't either.
And he got into TV production. He interned at WGHB in Boston, which is the big public television station in Boston that produces a lot of original programming for PBS. You'll see their logo on a lot of the PBS programming. And so that's an important place to be.
Right.
He gets a job with an advertising agency and apparently won a Clio Award, which a Clio Award is, I forget what it stands for, but it's essentially like, the movies get Oscars, records get Grammys, TV shows get Emmys. Advertising has Clios.
Okay.
It's an important and prestigious thing in advertising. So, and this is when he's in his 20s. So you get, again, 1949, you think about that. So 1949 to 1969, he's 20 years old. Is that right? Am I doing my math? Yeah. So the whole time, I guess he's like, is he only in his 20s when he's doing his Kiss
Sounds
thing?
like it. Like he's
That can't be right.
Well, I mean, the
No,
rest
43. I'm sorry.
Okay.
1943, 1949. So he's 30 years old. I thought he was
Okay.
older. I'm
a little bit
looking at
more
this wrong.
experienced.
But
a little
still, 30s. He's only in his 30s. I mean, just as Kiss is getting rolling, this is still a young man.
Yeah.
But he's got some TV experience. He produced and directed, I think, some episodes of a TV game show called Supermarket Sweep.
Oh, I like Supermarket Sweep. And you know what's funny? All right, this is those weird things that I always think back on like weird connections, and it's like I have to be genuine on the things I like. So you said he was like a producer on that show, which means like he kind of had like
I've gotten mixed things. I've seen some places credit him as a producer and some as a director.
Either
and
way,
he may have done both.
It's a role in which he has a hand in. When that show rebooted in the early 2000s and they were playing it on like the Game Show Network and stuff, I loved the show. And that was the same time I was figuring out about Kiss and everything else. And it's just those
Now
weird
I
things.
just tied it all together.
Well, it's one of those fucking weird things where I'm like, really? There's another thing I liked that had a weird Kiss connection that from looking at it from the outside in shouldn't. Like,
It's
what
true.
the fuck?
It's true, Alex. Everything is Kiss.
Yes.
So he ends up, he also produces a musical called Oh Calcutta,
Okay.
which was famous for being a nude musical.
I was gonna say
an
more like-
all-nude musical review.
Yeah, I remember reading about that
And
too.
apparently it's terrible, but
It's like trying to be John Waters but failing miserably.
and it was revolutionary because everybody's naked. You know, and I don't know. I can't imagine like who that would have appealed to in 1972 or whatever if it was like the raincoat crowd. Like, you know, that's something you wouldn't necessarily want in an off-Broadway musical, but who knows? And then, of course, he developed this syndicated show called Flipside, which, of course, is how Kiss came to figure out who he was and contact him, was through that show. So, you know, Bill just sort of is working different territories. His primary goal is television, but he sort of almost by happenstance falls into management with Kiss. I think he managed another band prior to Kiss. I can't recall. I meant to put that down in my notes and I didn't.
Yeah, it seems like every time it's mentioned, though, it seems like Kiss is like his first major
that's his first
band.
thing.
Right.
And who knew that they were going to be a major band? And of course, you know, they were largely self-financed off of his American Express card, which is insane.
Yeah. And,
And
we go into detail on all that in all the previous episodes.
We've talked about that in previous episodes. And, you know, a lot of people seem to think that Kiss was this big money making, you know, precisely planned juggernaut. And it's not.
Yeah, and like the classic quote from Paul, it's like, you know, someone asked him, what's it like to be rich and famous? He's like, well, I can tell you what it's like to be famous.
So he's got the vision, but he's not all entirely his ideas and vision, of course. Obviously, the band members have to come into play.
And Sean
but then
Delaney.
Sean Delaney was a big component of that.
And that's something that we kind of discussed on the A&E episode, which is that I'm glad that Sean is getting a little bit more recognition for how much he actually did in the band.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's about it as far as their team at this point.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, going to the point of the inserts on the records, they, of course, they discover these kids in Indiana doing a very grassroots fan club, and they call it the Kiss Army. Well, they adopt that, and of course, they bring in professionals to run it. And the professional he brought in to run it was a guy named Ron Boutwell.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying that right. I want to say it's Boutwell.
Boutwell?
It looks like Boutwell. That's how I'm going to say it. Boutwell. It just
Boutwell.
sounds awkward to say. Boutwell was breaking into band merchandising, which was a new, kind of relatively new market. It had been previously untapped at that point. And it was Boutwell who had the idea. Ron Boutwell is the one who said, put order forms in the records. So that was his concept. And he was running the fan club. And he claims at one point the fan club was earning, I've got it as $5,000 a day. That can't be right. Maybe. $5,000 a day is a lot.
It is.
Especially
Especially
for
in
like the-
1976
I was
money,
gonna
77
say.
money.
Well, I mean,
And the membership eventually reached as high as the six figures, 100 some thousand.
Well, like a year or two later, in 77, 78, when they do that Land of Hype and Glory thing, I meant to actually rewatch that. That's one of the one pieces I didn't rewatch before doing this episode. But Bill even makes mention of saying, their merchandising alone over the last year has netted us this much profit.
Yeah, it's getting really huge. And this is, again, you got to remember, this is pre-internet. This isn't like you can just get online and click and it,
might destroy your 45th anniversary.
You have to, most of these fan club memberships are coming from kids probably, bugging mom to pull a $5 out of her fucking, purse. I couldn't get that done. I tried, believe me. We tried like crazy. And $5 seemed like an obscene amount of money back then, especially when you're under 10 years old.
Right.
An 8-year-old with $5, man, you're walking on top of the world, man. And seriously, you're laughing about that, but I'm telling you,
I'm laughing in agreement, basically. Like
it was a huge sum of money, man.
And also, mom and dad are going, "You want what? What?
Yeah.
Let me see it."
Yeah, let me see it. What is this? And there's shock and revulsion. But recognizing what's going on, Bill Aucoin buys out Ron Boutwell, and he renamed, or I guess he renames it initially Boutwell Nico. I can't even say it. Neokua.
Okay.
Which is a coin backwards. Neokua.
That's cute.
Uh-huh.
And that's originally their little merchandising company, and he's splitting the profit 50-50 with Kiss. Now think about that. 50-50 with Kiss. Now that means 50% to Bill Aucoin and then 50% to the four guys that have to split that 50%. So, and then it was eventually it was amended to 60-40 to give 60% to Kiss.
Yeah.
But see, in addition to that profit, he's receiving a commission on top of his management commission. Now he's receiving a commission to run the management. Another 20%, which is more than they're paying. Well, I think they're paying him 20% at this point still. Okay. He's almost like a fifth member in the split on that. So Kiss is not making the lion's share of the stuff in the 70s. Everyone thinks that they're just like raking in just huge piles of cash. Well, someone is, but it's not the members of Kiss.
Nope.
And that's probably why they're so heavily involved in how their stuff is licensed today, and why they so kind of, I wouldn't say cavalier with it, but
Well, Gene does like the licensing a lot of himself,
because it's not, it's like when you buy something that's branded with Kiss, and you're like, oh, I'm giving Gene more money. No, Gene's already got that money.
Yeah.
No, you're giving the guy that so. Gene's not getting more of your money. He's already got it. The licensing deal's done.
You're just making sure that other company that spent the extra money for the licensing is actually getting their money back.
So I don't, I'm not 100% exactly how that works. That's probably an oversimplification. I'm sure
it's pretty close. One of the things actually we didn't talk about on the Something Good episode is someone asked about merchandising, and Paul was like, the only things we're guilty of is just giving the fans what they want. He's like, they think we're just sit here and brainstorm. What are we going to do? He goes, all we do is approve and disapprove licenses.
Yep. People come to them going, hey, do you want to make this? What is it? Well, it's my shit with your logo carved into it. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Give us this much money and you can do it.
Because people will buy it.
Yeah.
Bricks of shit with the Kiss logo carved in it.
See, invisible air guitar strings.
Yeah, that's the current one.
Just bags of air.
Yeah.
For $8.
With the Kiss logo on it?
Yep.
Fuck yeah.
Air guitar strings.
Oh, that's funny, man. How much is that? $8? Okay.
You're right.
People, so the real sucker in this game isn't the guy that's making it. It's the guy that's buying it. And with God as my witness, I am that sucker.
Yeah. But the thing is like we're laughing about the air guitar strings. The exact parallel of that in the 70s is they've got dolls.
Oh, well, yeah. But this is an era when, one of the most popular novelty toys is the Pet Rock.
Yeah.
I mean, they sold boatloads of that shit.
I remember that. I remember reading about it.
Kiss estimated $100 million between 1977 and 1979. 100 million 1970s dollars.
And that was on the off season of them touring. That's not even tour money.
That's I mean, I would hazard to guess, and I might be 120% wrong, but I don't think that I am, that Bill Aucoin was still living off of that money to the day he died. Like his success in other ventures still wasn't the income that he was living off of. I would only assume that has to be true because that is an obscene amount of money.
My personal opinion, I think he ran out in the mid-90s. Because you hear about the stories of Bill showing up to some of those Kiss conventions, like the fan ones, and then kind of going like, "Hey, I got some shit in my trunk," and then like selling off like things that he had. I have a hard time seeing that he was broke though. I mean, but then again, you never know. You never know. So they're making a lot of cool stuff here, though. Let's be honest. You got, of course, obviously the better-known items like the lunchbox. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Mego dolls. Those dolls, man, I can tell you, I can remember walking into Sears and seeing those things and just, like, losing my shit, man. Because that was about the coolest thing that had ever been made. I was just like, I gotta have them. Those 12-inch Kiss dolls, man.
And
action
of course,
figures, sorry.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah.
But that's the thing, though. In comparison to, like, say, stuff that comes like that comes out today, they didn't look, they look kind of goofy in a lot of ways.
But in that era, you didn't have. You're looking at it with hindsight.
I mean, look at the contemporaries of the other Mego dolls. Look at the superhero Mego dolls. They had like a Spider-Man, and that thing looked janky as hell. There was a Hulk that looked all weird. So it's like the Kiss ones actually looked really good in comparison.
I can tell you, I wanted that Mego Hulk doll like crazy. I asked for that thing for like 5 years in a row. Never got it. I always got something to compensate kind of close. It's like, I wanted Hulk. Well, I didn't get Hulk. I got Spider-Man. But to help compensate, I got a little Spider-Man. It was like a Spider-Man car.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Mego superhero dolls, and it's now jogging my memory on all this stuff too.
I had the Mego Batman and Robin with a Batcave play set. It was fucking cool. I tore it all to pieces.
Oh, of course.
So if I had the Kiss dolls, I'm sure they would have met
similar demise.
Some sort of like heinous fate.
Let's see if Gene can actually breathe fire.
So
I'll make Ace's guitar smoke.
Or I'm sure they would have been engaged in like copious amounts of like coitus with Barbie dolls of my friend's sisters.
Right.
Whatever you would do. I can remember a kid got a set at a birthday party at a skating rink we used to go to every Sunday when I was a kid, and it was just like, all of a sudden there's this flock of kids that aren't even part of his party are just like, what do you got? He had a whole fucking set. You're like, wow, he's got, because you never could find all four.
Right.
But of course I was lucky to just even hold a box would have been cool. But, my mom was no way she was letting her baby boy have any of that demonic Kiss stuff.
I'm looking online at eBay prices for like a set of 4. It's like $1,300.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine found a full set. They weren't in boxes, but he got a full set for like $375 or something, $350.
Damn.
They had the guitars though.
Oh wow!
Oh shit!
That's the Harvick's. They're cardboard.
Of the box, the back of the box had the guitars on the back. The boxes are all the same, if I remember right.
Yeah, I want to say so.
You got all 3 guitars are on the back with the, depending on which figures, which one you'd cut out.
Yeah.
So what about the Kiss radio?
The Kiss radio, I don't remember ever seeing one of those until the 90s.
Now, the Kiss radio, of course, I'm young, so I never saw any of this stuff firsthand. But watching like some of the VHS stuff or, Second Coming collection, when they actually talk about the merchandising of the time, they always show the commercial for the Kiss radio. The Kiss radio.
I don't even remember that TV commercial ever airing.
I was so confused. I thought they were promoting a radio that only played
Kiss music. Oh, I think that was they were okay for you to be confused on that. I think they quite wanted you to be confused on that.
Yeah.
Because
it's a little AM transistor radio with a sticker on it.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Was Kiss even being played on AM radio at the time?
Well, probably, Rock and Roll All Night was, and Beth was. But by that point, AM was still top 40, and if they didn't have a top 40 hit, then no, Kiss was not being
another one that pops in my head that I always thought was kind of odd because it really didn't fit with anything else they did, but the product itself looked cool, the model van.
Yeah, I've never seen one of those either.
In person?
I don't think I have. Now, is I don't.
It's like a red van.
It's a red van with
and
a
it's
destroyer decal on the side.
Again, it's so random, but like you look at it and you're like, well, this is kind of cool looking, especially for like the retroness of it.
See, the thing is, I'm trying to remember what I actually saw back in the day. The Kiss dolls I can remember being in the stores.
How about the mini record player that had like the Alive 2 photos inside of the lid?
Never saw that.
Okay.
I don't know that I've ever actually seen one of those.
Okay.
There's a ton of stuff like they had, but the lunchbox, of course, was, you had at least one kid in school that had one of those.
Right.
And somewhere along the way, I acquired a thermos.
Oh, the coveted thermos.
Yeah, and that's all I had. I don't know where I got it from.
And that's all you got.
And
that's the
all I
rarest
had.
piece.
Yeah. And I was like, and God knows where it went. Yeah.
I'm looking at the old Kiss lunchbox eBay prices, and they're like $400.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
stupid.
Dude, the collector market on this stuff is outrageous.
I know, because it's people that are, 50 years old that have a little more disposable income now that are going to buy that stuff and put it on their shelf in their fucking den.
But then it sucks for me because it's like, I wasn't around when all that cool shit was coming out. And it's like, I don't want all the shit, but it's like, you know what? Eventually, I would like to have the Mego collection. Well, I'd like to have a lunchbox.
You hear what you're doing, though.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I don't need it all. I just need this.
And this.
And that. And that's all I need. It's like the jerk, I don't need anything. All I need is this pen, this ballpoint pen, and then, next thing you know, you're walking out with an armful of junk that you really and truly do not need.
Well, mainly because I'm thinking of another product they put out in the 70s that may have been like at least the first, like, really? That? The Kiss trash can.
I had one.
You had one.
My brother and I both had one.
Okay. So to me, that's one of them that's like I could take or leave. Like, now, if someone was trying to give it to me, don't mistake, I will happily take it. But that's not one I'm seeking out.
The bummer about the Kiss trash can is that it had a picture on each side. It was an aluminum trash can, a tubular shaped, and it was about 2 foot tall, maybe 20 inches tall. It was tall, but it had 2 pictures on it, and it was one side was a live shot or a posed live shot, and the other side was a posed picture, and it was printed backwards.
So Paul Starr was on the wrong
side. The star was on the wrong. You're just, so you turn that side to the wall. But we had that. I'm trying to think. You'd see, of course, the posters at we'd sneak into Spencer's because I always felt like you weren't supposed to be in there when you're like 8 years old because you're seeing all the
Also, side note, $750 on eBay for a Kiss trash can.
I love this. I love how he's got up eBay and is going to give us the prices.
A couple
I love
years
this.
ago on Craigslist here in town for $15.
No shit.
And I contacted him. I was going to buy it, and I forget some snafu happened. And I was tired. I was like, I don't want it.
So this is with the backwards fucking print on it too.
Yeah, they all were made that way.
The plastic guitar.
Yeah, that was a popular one. Yeah, I never had one of those, but it seemed like I recall having, maybe one of my cousins had one.
Yeah, kind of had like the Destroyer Rock and Roll Over glitter gemstone photo shoot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but it was a little plastic toy with red plastic strings. I think it only had 4 strings on it.
Most of those little bullshit things did. I think it was like one of those where it's like it didn't even play Kiss songs. It's like you just press buttons and go like.
No, it didn't have it wasn't even that.
Oh, it wasn't that.
No, it was nothing electric about it. It was just a plastic.
Oh, I thought it at least made like some sort of noise.
With these little toy strings on it. They were just like nylon plastic.
Looks like just a shitty ukulele.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the makeup kit?
Yes, I did.
Ooh.
I found the makeup kit. My memory is all blurry on this. It was already a year or 2 after the Kiss thing had peaked. So I might have been maybe they were still just holding on. I don't know. But the makeup kit was old, I think. It felt like it was old. And I was like, wow, that's weird. And I bought it.
Yeah.
And if you opened it opened up like... It looks like a box, but my memory is it's not a box. It folds open like the lid, not hinged, but comes
folded
up.
Open, yeah.
And it had a little plastic tray with all the makeup in it, and then like a booklet that had the designs, so you could follow the design and paint it.
Yeah,
that one's only $125 on eBay.
Only $125
fucking makeup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that makeup wouldn't be turned to complete
I
dust
know it
by now.
That's what it says on the.
Oh no, that's not the right one. That's for the reunion tour.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's a reunion tour. That's a new photo.
Kiss your face makeup.
Yeah, kiss your face.
All right.
I don't. In these TV commercials that have popped up, I don't recall seeing those on TV.
Oh, the kiss your face makeup
Kiss
by
Your
Remco.
Face,
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm not saying that I didn't see it. I just don't remember. But usually that stuff you'd stick out in your head if you saw something.
What about the Amigo toy commercial? Did you ever see that one? Really?
No, I don't recall seeing that.
Yeah, and the Kiss radio one, I mean, we use a part of that in our intro, and yeah, that's just a radio exploding.
Right.
Trying to think of some other one. I know
a lot already, though.
I know they had, which is also still relevant for this episode, they had a commercial for Double Platinum.
I never saw that, but I know, I've seen these commercials obviously since. The TV commercial, I have a memory, again, I told this in an early episode, of seeing a commercial advertising a concert. Mm-hmm. And then when they came through with Dynasty, the Dynasty commercial that everyone's seen.
Oh, yeah, where they're walking with the little freeze frame.
They had one of those. I remember seeing that on TV. But a lot of this stuff, I'm not saying they didn't air it in our market. I'm just saying I don't. But then again, I also lived in a place where I could only pick up one television station. So.
Right.
Of course, the other thing that popped up in that era was the Kiss pinball machine.
Yes.
And I can remember rolling into the skating rink and that Kiss pinball machine, man. That was it.
That's the one bit of Kiss merchandise that I will spend fuck you money on if I had just that to burn, would be the Kiss pinball machine.
And you know what? I might agree with them. And I've been fortunate to actually play an original Kiss pinball because the diner we have here in town, Pinky's West Side Grill,
has one.
They used to.
Yeah, they used to.
Yep, they used to have one in the front. And I remember when I first moved back to Charlotte years ago, when I went into Pinky's, I saw that neon glow with that animated Kiss thing on there. I'm like, oh, they've got one.
I think out of all the Kiss merchandise from that era, obviously it's kind of hard to beat a pinball machine anyway.
Yeah.
But just that back glass painting is so cool. That is such an iconic, that's better than any. No, I'm not knocking the Ken Kelly art because that stuff's great too. But the art on that pinball machine, man.
Iconic.
That was badass.
And I think part of the reason being is because it was very 70s. Like the style art was very much 70s of the time. So it's like, and you look at, and this is a positive, you look at a lot of Kiss's visuals and it's almost timeless. Like, it's from the 70s, but there's nothing overtly 70s color. Right. There's not a lot of 70s style.
It's because it's black and silver.
Exactly. This is one of the few things where it's actually that 70s comic book, bright neon, kind of, almost rubbery style artwork. And I think that's one of the reasons it really draws you in, is because you're like, they didn't do a lot of artwork that was of the 70s.
Well, and I'll tell you what's also weird, and I've talked about this before, I think, is the idea, again, with no internet and no DVD, VHS, none of this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. VHS, like anyone still watching VHS. Anyway.
And that was just becoming a thing.
And I'm looking, I'd go to the skating rink and you knew it was there and you would just go and stand in front of it and look at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was like, and you just stare at it, and it would play intermittently the little songs, the way that, you put your quarter in and it would play, the pinball music would be Kiss songs. It'd play it, bong, 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 bong. That was rock and roll night. And it was like 2 or 3 songs that would play, but it wasn't the actual recording. It was like, just
the animatronic music.
Yeah. And it was like, but that was still like cool enough. And,
they're all over the place on eBay, but even like the fucking back glass for the original Bally pinball machines are like $600, $700 bucks.
Yeah. And that's just the back glass.
Yeah, I can't find. They're kind of all over the place. There's a signed one from like all the individual members of the band that's on eBay from that's like $4,000 at least.
Yeah. But that was a cool thing to see back in the day, and this merchandising stuff is, I just don't recall. It was huge, but I don't recall it being overtly prevalent because there's a Kiss on tour board game. I don't remember ever seeing that.
One of the pieces that I have from this era that, kind of thinking on it, I think probably served them the best, which was the Kiss trading cards.
Oh, yes.
I think that did a world of good because it was something very cheap you could pick up at the gas station or the corner store.
We all had Kiss cards.
And then you bring them to school, trade them around.
Yeah, the Kiss cards were definitely a big thing there for a good solid year or whatever.
And plus, they just look so cool. They picked great shots.
Yeah.
The borders were really nice.
Yeah.
I've got a flip book of a whole bunch of them. They're awesome.
They are really awesome. I can remember that was again part of it's same as staring at the pinball machine, staring at those pictures on those cards and trying to make sense out of what's going on in them because you don't when you're really young and you're still you're pretty naive, and you don't understand what you're looking at quite, and the idea. I'm jumping ahead here. My brother went to see him in 1979. And he talked about how he wasn't prepared to see them move. And it's like we'd seen, even if we'd seen the movie, it didn't click in his head. He was like, he had it, and we probably all did. It's like they would come over, strike their pose, and play, move a little bit, and play,
Yeah.
But and a lot of that came from because these pictures, they look like they're almost posed, and some of them are obviously. But there's some cool. I'm drawing to mind some images just off of my memory of these cards. There's one of Paul Stanley, and he's bathed in like kind of an orange light, and his muscle is really divined, and he's glazed in sweat, and he just looks fucking cool.
Calm down.
Glazed in sweat, and I just want to run my fingers through this.
Now it's Russ fan fiction.
But I'm just saying he looks cool. It just looks like he's fucking,
the man.
The fucking man, It wasn't, you weren't looking at it sexually. You were looking at it as an idealized, that's what I want to be,
Girls aren't the only ones that'll get body image issues. We all want to have Paul's body.
So it was like, that's the guy I want to be. I want to be like that guy right there because he's the cool motherfucker and he's going to get the girls and he's, that's what I'm talking about. There's a picture where Gene Simmons is drooling blood, and he's like sucking on a microphone, basically, and but the blood's all drooling down. And it's just a weird fucking looking thing. And again, it's not something that you would look at as a sexualized image. And even if he's intending it in any way like that, it's not connecting with an 8-year-old in that way. It's just a bizarre picture,
right? It's kind of like
that's how I still look at these things, in my head. It's like, what is this? Why are they doing that? What is that all about? And it was just, you just sit there and try to figure it all out. And then they had the little blurbs on the back of some of these cars, and
Paul is a Capricorn or whatever.
And Ace is from the planet Jindal. I'm learning to adjust to your gravity, and you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Side note, I think that is the smartest thing they ever came up with. Is I'm still trying to get adjusted to your gravity to explain why he was falling all the time. Right. I love that. That is probably the smartest, silliest thing they came up with.
Out, Curly.
I'm getting used to this atmosphere.
Whatever. But all that stuff. But it, to a
$200
kid,
on
it
eBay,
played into it, man. And the Kiss cards were a big deal.
And talking about your brother saying, he just wasn't ready for them to move. I think there's just something about Kiss though that does have a little bit of that strikingness to it because on that Kiss cruise, the lights were really good, and you could tell they were genuinely like pointing out people. Like they'd like point to someone and like throw a pick. Right. And there was a time or two where it's like, their eyes, if not looking at me, was looking at someone like right next to me or at least in my general vicinity. And it still does give you that little like a...
He looked at me.
Almost a little bit. And it's like, and I've been a fan for so many years and I would still get that, did they look at me?
Yeah.
That thing, if their eyes were in that area. So for him to even not see as much of it as we have, I can definitely see how just that presence and aura all of a sudden is just like,
well, again, the other big thing, and I don't know if this counts as merch or not, but I will count it, is just all the teen magazines. 16 magazine. Kiss were always on the cover of 16. 16 was like kind of the big one.
Yeah.
And there was Super Teen and Tiger Beat, and these, most of it was kind of directed towards like young teen or preteen girls.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was the, Sean Cassidy, Leif Garrett, that stuff.
Yep.
Scott Baio.
Donny Osmond.
This is kind of post Osmond.
Oh, okay.
So this is 1978.
But the same type of magazines that would have talked about it.
They would have been totally Donny Osmond 5 years prior.
Right.
And than Kiss.
Yeah.
Because, Kiss was kind of a universal thing. And so that was as close to Kiss merchandise as we ever got, really, for me and my brother, because, like I said, we had the trash can we got from an uncle.
Yeah.
We got the records by hook or by crook. I don't know how we just seemed to acquire those. And then the magazines, and you cut out all the Kiss pictures and hang them on your wall, or the Kiss center. They have the centerfold. You want to get the centerfold and hang it on your wall.
And I think we mentioned it an episode or two ago, but maybe just kind of in passing, it fits more in this one. How did you wind up getting the Kiss comic book, or how easy was it to find that?
I didn't get it back in the day.
Okay.
I bought it way later.
Did you ever see them even just out?
Yeah, but I was never a comic book person to begin with, so I wouldn't have known where you got them. It seemed like I might have seen it on the newsstand at one point,
or like at a grocery store or some shit.
And when in the cover price $1.25.
Yeah,
that was a lot of money for a comic book back then.
Right. Oh yeah.
Again, I wouldn't have if I had the money. I would have.
As comic book readers today, look at their $3.75 comic books.
Right. Well, but comic books back then were I think they were like 75 cents.
Yeah, if that.
This was like double the price of a regular comic book. The comic book, I remember certainly the advertising for it. That insert that was in the record, or afraid of the sight of blood.
Printed in real Kiss blood.
Yep. But I don't recall anyone actually having one of those. Somebody did, because I can remember reading it at some point, but it's just such a dim memory. It wasn't a close friend. It had to have been like one of my brother's secondary friends or something. Somehow I got a hold of it and got to look at it.
Yeah.
The other Kiss thing, I'm trying to think of the stuff we had.
Right.
We each got a beach towel.
Oh shit! I know which one you're talking about. Those things are cool as hell.
Well, we had two different ones.
I'm thinking of the Love Gun themed one.
There was one that was like,
or at least Love Gun costumes.
Yeah, I can't remember what the one was red, and I think it was an illustration of them standing on the blocks. I might be wrong on that, and I think the logo was blue, and then the one that I had was just their four faces. And it was yellow, and it had a red logo. And my brother stole mine from me, so he could hang it on his wall. Our beach towels didn't go to the beach; they got hung on the wall.
Oh,
They became tapestries on your wall. Yeah.
See, the one I have in my head is a white background, maybe a illustration of the Cube photos, but it was like a white background, primarily black coloring with like yellow accents.
The one I'm seeing is more like orangey kind of.
Okay, no one can see this, but since you're looking this up on your laptop, we'll roll it around. I want to look at this.
More like this. Let me get to the angle where I can get to my little arrow here. Here we go.
That's not the one I remember either.
That's not it.
That's not it.
That's another version. Ooh.
Yeah. No, the ones I wish I know what happened to these things.
Yeah.
Just, I think they accidentally got lost by my mom at some point.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens sometimes.
She was down on it hard. But ultimately, the real end game was always, of course, just to get new Kiss records.
Right.
We just wanted as many Kiss records as we could get. So the merchandise was never quite as important to us as the music. And which I think flies in the face of what a lot of their detractors say. Oh, they're just all image, blah, 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 blah. That was a selling point, but I mean, the music still is what carried it for
it had to.
My little circle of friends. And
they wound up putting together a collection of music this year, too, to kind of push it a little further as well.
Yep, Double Platinum.
Double Platinum comes out in, I think, the spring of 78.
And then talk about more merchandising. Such a cool little insert, your own platinum record.
Yeah, your platinum record award, which, at the time, I didn't know what the hell that was. I didn't know anything about that. I was like, what is this?
I want to know how many people tried actually playing it.
Well, I don't even remember having, I had that record, but I must have gotten it secondhand, or maybe I don't know. I don't remember it having that in there. But I can remember we would try to do like a rubbing of the, that cover's embossed. And we're getting way ahead. Let's talk about this record, Double Platinum. Just the audaciousness of it. Okay, it's a greatest hits album that comes out, and you get it, and it's the silver embossed cover, which evidently was a award-winning feat for the company that produced them because of what they had to do to make them. But I don't understand the technicalities of that.
Yeah.
And it's a gatefold cover. But before you open the record, you have to buy it. And there's no songs listed on the cover at all.
Nope, front or back.
This is some serious fuck you to somebody somewhere. It's like, you know what? Here it is. It's our greatest hits album. You haven't had any hits. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Well, what's
no
on
context whatsoever.
There's no context. It's just Kiss double platinum. The front and the back are exactly the same. No credits, nothing until you open it up and then you see it's songs I've already got.
Yeah. Well, fuck me, right?
But I guess, man,
all I get is this stupid fucking gold record that I can't
that's my it's not my platinum record award. So let's see here.
A lot of the only new
greatest hits, and they have they've how many hits have they had at this point?
Like 2?
Well,
yeah.
I'll say we'll say I forget where we said Hard Luck Woman charted. I think that's it. So 3.
So Beth, Hard Luck Woman, Rock and Roll All Night. But was this not a part of like a record contract, obligation, how bands have to put out something every year?
I think this was to meet some sort of, you know what? I missed that on my research on this.
So what I do remember is that y'all are kind of hitting it close, is that there was some sort of, we need to release something within the year, so on and so forth. And I think this was also, they were trying to put this in a lot more markets and kind of using this as like almost like a press kit record almost.
Right.
And what wound up being interesting though is what led to, and I might be getting a little bit ahead, but it still connects to the story of this. All the remixes were done because they couldn't get certain master tapes. And that there was like the story of them having to like overnight fly certain tapes to different studios.
That's what I've got. They're in Trident Studios in London. It's Mike Stone and Sean Delaney. Mike Stone went on to produce other notable, I guess, records, blah blah blah, whatever.
Right.
Do your own
Kiss
homework.
Show.
Anyway, yeah, Sean Delaney, and there were at this point, I think they're already neck deep in producing one of the solo albums. And Bill Coyne comes out of left field and goes, "Hey, we need this, and we need it pronto." So this is all done. These mixes are all done over the course of about 10 days.
Yep.
So everybody, get your candy out.
And what they did was
Yep.
I'm sure that was.
We got 10 days.
and to illustrate that, we're going to go track by track here on some of this stuff. But you talk about how they flew the master tapes over. They sent a receptionist from the Coin, so the story goes. She goes over, no hotel, no staying, no visiting. She lands, gets in a cab, goes to the studio, gives them the tapes, gets back in the cab, goes back to the airport, gets back on the plane, and flies the fuck back.
Yep.
That's,
that is called fuck you money.
Yeah.
No shit.
So it's like, Jesus. And so let's go. So all these songs are remixed, and the idea.
To a point. There's a few that aren't.
But the idea here is they want to establish a balance between the different recordings because they're all very different. They want it to be an even sounding kind of thing from track to track, which of course
I don't think worked at all.
Well,
I was about to ask how y'all feel like
it's hard to do, and of course, the Ezrin tracks proved to be the most difficult.
Yeah. Well, it kicks off with the only brand new track on the record, which is Strutter 78.
Okay, everyone says this is like got a disco feel. I don't really see the disco feel.
I hear
He's not doing double time on the hi-hat, which I thought was there, and I listened to it again. I'm like,
it's a
he's
shaker.
Not. And he might have the 4 on the floor on the kick.
I was gonna say there. So I hear disco, and I'll explain why. So even though it's not a double hi-hat, there is that shaker and the tambourine that kind of gives it that which you would hear. And if you pay attention closely, there is a synth There's a synth that does some swells.
It's definitely a late 70s, vibe. That's that was kind of used on,
and like the extra reverb on Paul's vocal, and everybody says she's looking good. There's a lot more of the harmonies during that part.
Do it again.
very Casablanca standards for the time.
Yes,
How about
thank
that?
you. Yeah,
but it's produced by, or recorded by anyway, a guy named Jimmy Ienner. And I don't know any details on this. It's like I can't find any information on like where did they record this at, when they recorded it, why was it just the one song, why was Jimmy Ienner chosen to do it. There's nothing out there. I can't find any information on this.
The only things I've heard is that, like rumors, is that it was also left over from the Alive 2 sessions.
Okay.
That's the only other thing I heard.
Well, it's got I think his lead on this is really good. It's really strong.
Yeah, and it's clearly an ace lead.
One thing that I've noticed on all these tracks is that all these leads, the solos are pushed a lot hotter than they are on the original mixes. It goes into, we're going to not go every song, but any song that I felt was notably different.
Yeah.
And really most of them aren't even notably different, but there's some differences. Hard Luck Woman.
Yes.
Which it has the delayed intro on the bass and drums. They come in at a different point than they do on the original.
Yep, a little later.
Yep.
It comes in later. And it lets the opening it lets that acoustic kind of vibe flourish a little more.
And a little air in between
it. It's been interesting to hear the entire track mixed that way. With no bass and no drum.
Well, and also they've got a little bit more slap back on Peter's vocal.
Yeah, it would have. I think it'd been interesting if they had done that. That would have been a neat change on it. A whole alternate kind of would have even been an alternate take. It just would have been an alternate mix, which it already is anyway.
And the thing is actually when you listen to Hard Luck Woman, I think there is an alternate Peter vocal take near the end.
Yeah, you know what? I was looking for that too, and I couldn't quite get it.
Because I think that was one of the master tape things. Like they got one of the tapes and they're like, "Oh, this is like the second to the last mix that we had," or something like that.
Up in there, it sounds like he's saying two words at the same time. At the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it was some weird little thing like that. And again, that's just that information you pick up on like the message board 10 years ago, and you're like, "Oh, that's cool information." And then you go to look for it again, and you're just like, "I don't know where I found that."
Calling Dr. Love has that cool intro on it.
Yeah, cool intro, but I hate everything else they do with the intro. I like the Dr. Love, and the into the song.
That's cool.
Now, if they had let it play through normal after that, it would have been fine.
It's a lot drier than the.
Well, not only that, they cut the intro again, so it does the vocal thing, the build up, the riff halfway through, then it does that again, and then it's into the vocal, and I'm just like, "Oh, come on!"
Just teasing like that, but we got to make it different.
Well, I mean, they're just trying to make it tighter and. Probably had some time constraints to consider on this too.
But I do like what you're kind of saying. It was a lot more dry, and I think it's a pretty cool mix outside of the intro.
It's not as atmospheric as that whole Rock and Roll Over mix is.
It's not. I didn't notice anything on Let Me Go, Love Gun, or God of Thunder.
But Hotter Than Hell still has that weird kind of, sounds like it was recorded through a pipe kind of thing. That I call it a tubular sound. It sounds like when you put a pipe to your ear, and you're talking to your, when you're a little kid and you're doing that. To your friend kind of thing.
I used to do that with a straw.
And it's got that weird kind of, and that whole album has that kind of weird kind of, and it's not, they can't get it out. It's like, it's just there.
Yep.
And whatever.
Firehouse though.
It's got the tagged reprise at the end where it comes back into the.
But there's also one major change on this song, and it bugs the hell out of me.
Which is?
They pitch shifted it. They that record is in a standard. It was in a half step tuning. This song is sped up in a way to where it's an E.
Weird.
I got to revisit this one again too.
Yes, they pitch changed that song. If you just listen to the intros back to back, it's completely it's the same guitar track, but it's either sped up or pitch corrected. It's not the same audio frequency.
That's weird. I did not notice that.
That always bugged me how it was a step higher.
I love how side B is all just like the only writing credit on that entire side is
Stanley.
Stanley.
I wrote this side.
Yes. Give me more money.
The first two bass notes on 100,000 Years are very heavily reverbed.
Yes. Oh, well, the song before it, Deuce, that one kind of wound up showing up a few more times. You've got a lot more reverb on the snare, and the bass is a lot more in this version.
Yeah.
So they did do a little bit more interesting with that. But no, exactly what you're saying, too, on 100,000 Years. Yeah, that blows it out.
So we got the rock bottom intro.
Well, Detroit Rock City has the chorus sung over the solo.
Now, what's your opinion of that? Because it is always 50-50 if that shows up somewhere.
That was the first version I ever heard. Was that Detroit Rock City chorus over the solo part?
That's the version I think it's still played on the radio whenever you hear it.
Yeah, and greatest hits packages and things like that.
And it's got that. It's got the heavy reverberated ending. Ba-dam. Mm-hmm. And that, which I'm okay with, but that them singing over the putting that chorus part over that lead, and that's the best part of the lead to me.
Oh, the
and I'm like, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why does that need to be there? It doesn't. Why did you do that?
That's one of those arbitrary things that they kind of did, I feel,
because they were high on coke.
Yeah,
and I think
I got a good idea, man.
How are we gonna do this? We got 24 tracks, man. We can use all of them.
You know what we're gonna do? We're going to take the intro to Rock Bottom, and we're going to put it at the beginning of She.
Okay, now here's the question. Should they have done that on the original album? Do you think that could have fit there?
It just doesn't. The key is just so. The difference in key is just jarring to me.
It is. And I feel that they took way too long fading in the intro. It feels like when you start the song, it's quiet for like an entire minute, and then it starts to build
it's
up.
Part of that song. It almost feels like it's just an interlude between the two songs in a way that it isn't. Like in Rock Bottom, it's definitely part of the song.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it just feels like it's just dropped in, kind of like.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he was saying, like the key shifts.
You know what? I haven't pulled the record out. I've been moving anyway, but is it credited that way on the vinyl?
It is. It's those two back to back. It's one track.
Isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Rock Bottom intro.
I thought it didn't have that in there.
Nope.
I thought it was just there.
It's like they could be like, I can see them going like, oh, Led Zeppelin does this, you know.
No, wait. Yeah, I know they do it. Now I'm saying on the vinyl, on the original vinyl album, it says it on the.
It says Rock Bottom and then intro in parentheses and then She.
And it's got the ending it repeats over at the end.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems like he does this on all of these songs that they've remixed. He really seems to like this idea of like, let's just tag on the ending at the beginning and the song will just sort of restart as it fades out.
Yeah.
And he does it on, Black Diamond.
Black Diamond, yep.
It's interesting that they used the studio version of Rock and Roll All Night as opposed to the hit live version.
I know it.
But here it is, a greatest hits album, but you're using the version that wasn't a hit.
Yeah.
It's kind of curious.
Give it a second chance, maybe?
Maybe, I don't know.
This whole record is curious.
And then it says a Come On and Love Me remix, although I went back and listened to that a few weeks ago, and the only thing I could really catch is that maybe like the tambourines were a little louder.
I don't know. I was curious if he had taken anything different. Like there's an acoustic guitar is pretty pronounced, and it sounded a little more pronounced in this mix than it does on the original.
Okay, that could be one too.
Then the solo sounds a lot. Again, the lead is a lot hotter and drier on Black Diamond. So all these little things, they're little things that if you A/B them, you'll notice. But if you're not in the habit of A/B-ing them, most of that stuff you don't even pay attention to.
Yeah,
it's just another. It's just this. It's the same thing. Overall, I think this is a totally unnecessary, but decent collection of stuff.
Still went platinum though, right?
It's for of course, and it's really designed, I think, for their expanding fan base. I think it's like all these people that are kind of, these young kids that are buying into Kiss. It's like here's a sampler, here's where you can start if you want.
But then you but you already have the two live records that are,
I know it seems like I said it's unnecessary, but here it is.
Well, so let's look at it maybe this way. Okay, so like you said, you've got the two live records. So maybe a kid only has a certain amount of money. He's got the two live records, but now he wants the studio stuff. Well, I mean, you're looking at this. You got Strutter, Do You Love Me, Hard Like Woman, Dr. Love.
You don't know what you got because it's not listed on the cover.
You get it.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, how do you even know?
Maybe there was a hype sticker.
Yeah, I'm sure there was, but I don't know what it would have had on it.
Yeah, maybe we should.
We look it up. See if you can see if there's a double platinum hype sticker. Because I don't recall there being one when I was a kid getting it, but
I can't remember if we've brought it up on previous episodes, but one of my back to like a brief merch topic thing. If you're on Instagram and if you don't follow, if you're a Kiss fan and you don't follow Knights in Satan's Service, you totally should. It's John Five's from Rob Zombie's band's Kiss collection, ever expanding.
I don't need to see that.
It's fun though.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's great, but I'm just going to be like, you motherfucker.
That's kind of
You've got the money and the means to do that, and you're the one that's fucking it up for the rest of us.
It's cool though.
And of course, it's all just jealousy. Of course,
okay, exactly.
It's absolute petty jealousy with you, motherfucker.
He was on a Loudwire interview where. The whole bulk of the interview was like, show us your Kiss collection. Yeah. Well, I have this original Bally pinball machine and yada, yada, yada.
Okay, so there actually was a hype sticker, and it was a really big one with all the track listing.
Oh, shit.
Well, yeah, I wonder, was that always there from the get-go?
I don't know, but I just typed in double platinum hype sticker, and I finally found a sealed copy, and I was like, it's a big one with all the tracks.
Well, it's like, why did they not put the album tracks on the cover to begin with? But maybe it's because they wanted that classy.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It's a very.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's got all of it. See, I wasn't aware of that because
I wasn't either until just now.
I remember seeing. I just, my memory is just really dim on seeing this record at stores.
Yeah. No, but the thing is like even when they reissued it on CD, they still didn't put the tracks on the back, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
I could be wrong on that.
No, it's, but it was, I guess they wanted that packaging to be.
And I was going to say from a design aspect, that is pretty cool though. Just this big old silver record, same thing on the front and back. It almost feels like you've got something that only executives would get.
Exclusive.
That kind of thing.
Well,
it's platinum.
And you got
platinum.
got your record award, your platinum record award.
And something you were about to mention earlier, but we never worked back around to. So when you did open it up, and you finally saw the track listing at the very top, there were 4 more embossed photos.
Right.
And the cool thing about it is when you looked at the embossed photos,
they're the same thing as the solo albums.
It's the same thing as the solo albums, and the makeup isn't super embossed on there. And I remember Mom telling the story
if you get try to trace them. Yeah, we did that too.
Yep, where it's like you put the piece of paper on top, you get your pencil, tilt it on the side, and do that gentle scrape across. And it's like, then you try to see what they look like without the makeup on, man.
Yep. Absolutely.
You were leading to that. I don't think we ever got there.
Yeah, we absolutely would do that. And we, and then you see a lot of those records. If you find them used, you'll see the pin marks where kids have tried to do that because that, it absorbed that, that imprint from where you did that.
Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of the used copies that are online.
Yeah.
But that was part of the fun of it. It's interesting those 4 pictures are being used for the solo album covers. Well, you don't know that yet because that's still out on the horizon.
Yeah.
But this is pushing out. Are they still on tour at this point? I'm not sure because I think
possibly
this comes out
early '78. I think they were wrapping up the Love Gun tour.
No, because they were supposedly when they were already working on their solo albums when they mixed this stuff, but that's where
the Alive 2 tour went from November 15th, 77 to April 2nd, 78.
So when does Double Platinum come out?
Double Platinum.
It comes out in April 78, doesn't it?
It does.
There you go.
April 2nd. So, as the tour is wrapping up or just around that time.
Yeah, that's not going to be an accurate date. That's probably just a ship date. The street dates would have probably been a little more varied at that point.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though, and with everything else we've got coming up, like to talk about within the solo records and the movie, again, the Alive 2 tour went from November 15th, 77 to April 2nd, 78. The Dynasty tour kicked off in June 79.
Yeah.
They had less than a year, or a little over a year, rather, to get all of this done that they're about to get done.
Yeah. So much fucking happens in this year. We're just in April.
Yeah, basically.
But, it's Kiss Mania. They're definitely ruling everything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go anywhere and not be inundated without being inundated with Kiss something.
Yeah.
The marketing is over the top. I think that's very much a 70s kind of idea, this whole super hype kind of thing.
Yeah.
It runs kind of, counter to that sort of hippie culture from 10 years prior where everything was about your integrity and blah, 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 blah. And Kiss is just flaunting, their success, really. And really, they're probably not as successful as they're trying to make themselves appear to be. We know now that their records aren't selling quite as well as they want to say. They are still...
They're killing it with merchandise, but they're not getting the lion's share.
And they're not getting the lion's share, but and of course they're certainly, still very popular live act.
But even that, I feel like it was, if I remember correctly, we may have discussed it on previous episodes, but there was almost that same kind of split even with the live shows. Bill was getting a much larger commission off those dates than the 4 members of Kiss were individually.
You're probably right.
So...
Well, we're about to see them get pitted up against each other in a very nasty way.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, but this is what's going to happen. And I think what we're going to be doing now is looking at the solo albums, which come out the following fall. And I think what we'll do is a special, they come out all 4 on the same day.
Yeah, they do.
All 4 albums, really, nothing like this has ever been done before. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to release 4 episodes all in the same day.
Oh, shit.
And each one will be dedicated to each individual album.
Let's see if all streams get the same return.
Yeah, and we'll see if they all, So be looking for that. These are going to be special episodes of No Time to Turn. There probably won't be full-length episodes. I think these will be... we'll call them our mini episodes, but we're going to give each album its fair shake. This is really a big thing. This is, this is any band doing this. It would be impressive. But, I can't think of any other band that has ever done anything like this before or since.
Nope.
Not even the Beatles.
Especially not earnestly. Some people have done it as like little jokes, like 4 EPs, kind of stylizing them like that, but nothing serious.
So everything they're doing right now is teeing the ball for the following fall. There's going to be a lot going on. We're going to get the solo albums, and then, of course, they're going to make this television movie.
And as rumor has it, the birthplace of the solo records happened while they're filming said movie.
No, that's not accurate though.
See, I've heard that so many times
because they've already started on working on these albums at this point. They haven't filmed the movie yet.
Okay, so I heard the big thing of like they're arguing in the back.
That's why we do these shows. That's their narrative, and they're sticking to it.
Yeah, but said narrative is like Ace didn't show up, and that caused arguments. And Bill was like, "Well, how about we all just do solo albums?"
It's already in their contract to do solo albums. That contract negotiation they did in '76 has a stipulation that each member will produce a solo album.
Yep.
So
I love it. This is like the fun part of the timeline for me.
So we'll get into all that though. We'll talk about that at length on the next. Well, the next
episodes.
4 episodes.
Yeah.
So hopefully y'all will join us as we go into a deep dive of the solo albums. And until then, I'm Russ, and for Cap, and for Alex.
Whatever your fucking name is.
Whatever that guy's name is.
Tommy Thayer.
We'll see y'all next time on No Time to Turn.
Thank you for listening. Please insert another coin by supporting the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/somethinggoodnetwork.